So in the feature engineering, whenever we try to solve some classification problem or regression problem, we have lot of features. Feature inputs are there, and based on those features, we are trying to predict the output. Right. So if you say like house price prediction, so the price will be the output, whatever you want to predict, and there can be multiple features. Can be the city name, can be the feature, size can be the feature, area can be the feature, number of BHK can be the feature. Now suppose we have one more feature, that is house number in the existing features, just a house number 10, house number 5. So like, can we give a quick analysis, is really house number will be useful feature for our you can say for the house price prediction, just house number. Suppose someone say my flat number is 102, someone say my flat number is 203, right? So is that house number is useful for our house price prediction? What do you think?
No, not really.
Right. So that house number is, you can say, can be independent to every different places, and that will not convey any information. Definitely, if you are looking for address, definitely that has some information. But in terms of price prediction, that doesn't convey any specific information or any pattern from that house number. Right. So in that case, yes, it is possible whenever your house number is consistent across the country, then might be that will convey some information. Like you have make a rule, a broader rule. Okay, the first floor will be always start from 1, second floor always start from 2, third floor always start from 3, and so on. And that is followed in across the country or at least across the city, then might be that can give some information at the time of house price prediction, at least that information like which floor you are, because as you move floor from top to bottom or bottom to top, the price will be changing. But that is not true for all the cases, because everywhere the flat number is different, they are using different way. Even if you look into one society to another society, you will find different ways, different numbers, right? Someone start similarly, just 1 2 3 4, someone start like some different number, a1 b1 or something. So in that case, this house number will not give you lot of information. So it means in general we can say there are lot of features which are not producing any good information that will help us to produce the correct output or to produce the prediction. So in that case, we have to look into the feature and we have to remove those variety of features. So this entire process is known as the feature engineering. And so in that case, like if you are saying features, so feature contain information about the target, whatever target we have, either it's a regression problem or it's a classification problem. So normally we are saying features contain some information, means features have some relation between the individual features and the output. Then someone say if you have more feature, is really it means that we have more information and that will help us to produce a better classification or regression. Is this is a always true condition? What do you feel? Is this always true, or sometimes it's true, sometimes it's false? What do you think? Yes,
So features might be underrated.
features might be. I just missed the last.
So features might not be providing anything to the classification or regression.
Yeah, it's possible like some features are not giving more information. Even it is also possible some features are degrading the performance. With those features which have lot of noise, they are not a good feature. Or you can say a feature have lot of missing values, then also these are not a good features. So we have to look into the features, which features are good feature, which features are not good features. So this entire process we need to understand. Then there is another like a very generalized curve. So suppose you are increasing number of features or number of attributes, definitely in the initial time or up to a certain time, this will improve the performance, right? The performance of classifier or the performance of your regressor. But after certain time, the performance is degraded. Sometimes it is not degraded. It might be go like consistent forward, like it is not improving at all. So unnecessary, if we increase these features, then they are just giving the overhead in terms of computation, right? If your performance degraded, means definitely it is instead of improving performance, it is degrading the performance. So these are not only contributing in the resource overhead, or you can say computational overhead, but it is also like degrading the performance. But there are many cases where they are not degrading the performance, but they are not contributing at all. So unnecessary, if you have these case, means you are wasting your resources to compute those features, to perform operations on those features. So we do not require those kind of features. So we need to understand which features are good, which features are bad, and we should have a methodology to find out those features, right? So why this particular things happens, because many features are maybe irrelevant features, that is not contributing lot of information or contributing any information, you can say. Then there can be a possibility there are redundant features as well, like one feature is similar to another feature, or you can easily get the information of one feature to another feature. Third important part, we should, maybe it is possible we have very limited training examples, and definitely we have limited computational resources. So these all can be can create problems for us. So that motivates us to do some feature engineering, or you can say some operations on the feature to find out the best feature. So in order to do that, there are two things. One is feature selection, and second is feature extraction, right? Now what feature selection means, suppose you have a feature, like let me say x1, x2, this xm feature. Out of these features you have selected, for example, you have selected, so you found, okay, this feature is good, somewhere this feature is good, this feature is good, this feature is good, right? So once you select few features out of all the features, or you can say once you delete few features out of which are not useful features, then that process is known as the feature selection, right? Then feature extraction is mapping of current feature to a new features itself. So what feature extraction means, suppose you have some feature x1, x2, x3, xm. Now these features you are trying to map in a different feature space, let's say z1, z2, z3, zn. So definitely once you map one feature space to another feature space and n is less than m, right, then means you are reducing the dimension. So feature selection means you are targeting or you are selecting few features from the existing features, that is selection process. Feature extraction means you are trying to extract a derived feature, or you can say new features from the existing features, and definitely their dimension will be lesser than the original feature. So this is the process of feature extraction. Is it clear, both of them? Any doubt on selection and extraction? Any doubt, guys?
No, sir.
Okay, so first let's look into the feature selection, what exactly feature selection is, right? So here what we want to do, we have to optimize. So this is a optimization problem. If you look into the feature selection, this is a optimization problem. So what we have to look into, we have to reduce the complexity, model complexity. So how it will reduce? You have to reduce the features, number of features, right? And while you are reducing, you have to look into the accuracy part. Like either it will improve the accuracy or maintain the original accuracy, right? So you are looking into two sides. So as we have seen in the graph as well, either once you increase the number of features, either your accuracy will be remain same or it will decrease. So if you look into the reverse side, we have to remove those features from the existing features which is not contributing at all or which is actually degrading the performance. So we have to reduce the model complexity, or you can say we have to select those features which are either improving the performance, or even after removing the feature, if you are still able to maintain the existing accuracy, then also we need to remove, right? So that is the feature selection process, right? So what is the complexity of this? Suppose you go like simple combination method. So suppose you have d features, d number of features. So how many combinations are possible? 2 to the power d possible combinations are there, right? So in that case, if you go all over 2 to the power d combination, then it will take lot of time. So we need some heuristic method to solve this problem, right? If you look into all the combination or permutation combination, then it will become very huge space that where you need to search one by one, and then it will become very complex. So you require some heuristic to solve this problem. When you say heuristic, heuristic means like this heuristic term you will see many places. So heuristic means that will help to the perform the task. It is like a supporting element. That support will give you to boost up the performance, or it will increase the speed of the process. That is known as the heuristic, right? So you found a lot of algorithm as heuristic based algorithm. So where we have some kind of indicator, that is the heuristic, and that indicator help us to find out the best value, or it will boost up the performance. So those kind of algorithms is known as heuristic algorithm, right? So in general how feature selection works. So suppose you have some original features, like let's say n number of features are there, then you will generate the subset, some subset you will generate, then you will check those subset and evaluate them. After evaluating, you will test is really this will meet the stopping criteria, right? You can say stopping criteria, and if it is fails, then again you will check the next subset and move forward. Now here when we say evaluation, right, this evaluation most of the time is going for the validation set, or you can say test set. So you will evaluate the performance of subset in the test set itself, right? So for example, if you have x1, x2, x3, right? Suppose you have three features, x1, x2, x3. So what you will do, you have find out x1 and x2 one combination, then x1 and x3 one combination, then you can say x2 and x3 one combination. Suppose you make these three combinations. So first you will check with x1, x2 and test the evaluation. So you will test this particular x1, x2 combination and check the performance of the classifier or your regressor. If your performance is meeting the stopping criteria, then you will stop and you will say like your x1, x2 is the best feature, right? If it fails, then you look into the other combination and so on. So based on that, you will find out the subset of features, right? So this is a broader concept, or you can say broader overview of your feature selection process. So there are multiple ways to do this feature selection. So let's look into those ways, how exactly we will solve it. So before jumping into that, is any doubt till this point? It's good. Any doubt till this point? Anywhere? Yes, any doubt, guys?
सर सबसेट का इवैल्यूएशन कैसे हो रहा है?
So this subset evaluation means here we are talking about this subset. Subset means this is one subset, let's say this is second subset, this is third subset, right? So once you go to here S1 and S2, right? So you will evaluate your like you can say you will create a model here, and this model will be evaluated based on only, sorry, not S1, S2, so only S1. At a time only one subset will be there. So S1 will be evaluated. So you will create a model for S1 where you have only two features, X1 and X2, and then you will check the performance of this model. Is this performance is improved from the previous performance, or it is maintaining the same performance, then you will accept those features.
सर बट ये फिर स्केलेबल मॉडल नहीं है ना. मान लीजिए मेरे 3000 4000 फीचर का कुछ बनता है तो आई कैन नॉट टेस्ट ऑल सबसेट्स. मतलब तो
Yes, definitely. No, we
better or faster
cannot check all the subsets. It's not possible. Like otherwise it will become a you can say exhaustive problem. So you have to look into all the subsets. So I'm coming on that, how to solve that. Suppose you have 3000 sets. So, or you can say a large number of sets, then you cannot check all the combinations. It is not possible. Means it is possible, but it is very time consuming. Time complexity will be very high. So this is a general you can say general overview of feature selection, right? So let me take one more example, then it will be more clear. So that so what exactly we will do. So for example, let's say we have features x1, x2, x3, right? You have three features. So first thing what you will do, you will create a model for these three features and you will test it. So once you test it, you will get some performance metrics like, let's say, accuracy, right? Now next one, when you start the feature selection, you have selected x1 and x2 and you create a model and you test it, right? If and definitely once you test it, you will get some accuracy. So let's say this is AF, the full accuracy. Now you say AS1 accuracy. So if your AS1 accuracy is better than AF, or you can say if it is equal as AF, it means your X3 feature is not useful feature. So you can remove that feature. Similarly, you will check with X1 and X3, right? You will create a model, you will test it, and then you can say this is S2. So might be if suppose AS1 is not performing good, this accuracy is reduced, then AF might be this AS2 accuracy is better than AF, or it is equal to AF, then this subset will be better subset, right? So similarly you will test with all the subsets, and whatever is the best one, that you can choose. So that is overall way to solve this problem, right? You can say overall flow to solve this problem. Any doubt till this point, anyone? Guys, any doubt?
No, sir.
Cool. So now, so in order to evaluate those feature subset, there are two methods. One is the supervised method, and second one is the unsupervised method. That is the filter method, you can say, right? So in case of supervised method, this is very straightforward. You have a validation set and you will estimate error, or you can say you will estimate the accuracy based on that validation error, and if that accuracy is better than the previous, then you can say your subset is better. If it is even equal, it is equal, then also you can say it is a better, but if it is degrading, means that is not a good subset. Then second one is the unsupervised method. So where you are looking only the input side, you do not have any output available, right? So in that case, what you will say, you will say which one will contain most of the information, that is our good subset, right? So we'll come into that, how exactly we will check it, right? So in case of sorry, in case of filter method, let's say filter method means you are talking about the unsupervised method. So what you will do, you will first start with the original features, whatever we have. You will come up with the importance score of each feature, selecting the best feature, and then you will check the learning algorithm and you will check the performance, right? Now you can say from where you will get this point, because this looks completely new, the importance score, right? How you will give the importance score. So I'll come into that, how you will give the importance score to a particular feature. Even whenever you have gone through the linear regression, right? You have created a linear regressor. So in that case, in case of linear regression, whatever weights we are creating, or you can say whatever weights we are generating to make the linear regression, these weights itself act as a importance of features. If your weights are higher, means the magnitude is higher, then that feature is more important than the features which have magnitude is lesser. If your magnitude of weight is 0, it means that feature is not important at all. So from there as well you can find out the importance of feature, right? So that score will help you to decide the features. Similarly, in case of wrapper class, what you will do, as we have seen in the previous example, you will generate the subset. There is again you will learn the learning algorithm will be there. Then you will test is really this is a good subset or not. Again you will check another subset. At the end you will check the performance, right? In the validation set once you got the final subset. So this is the wrapper method where we are talking about the you can say you create the subset and this subset will be checked one by one. But in case of filter method, we will look into the importance matrix or importance score and you will pick. So suppose you have a feature, let's say x1, x2, x3, x4 till xn, sorry xm, and here you have importance feature i1, i2, i3 dash 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 im, right? Now what you will do, based on these magnitude values you will sort the features, right? After the sorting, first you can select, I am selecting first 6 feature. So you found okay, is the performance is good or not? You will found no, it is not good. Then you increase this value. So instead of 6 you will say no, now I want like complete 9 values. Then still it is not good, then you will tell like 20 values. So in that way you will increase the number of features and then you will test the performance. Once you reach the good performance, then you will stop at that moment, right? So that is the way how you can do with the filter method and the wrapper method. In case of wrapper method, you are taking subsets of features. There is nothing like a you have an importance score over there. There is a subset of, you pick a one subset of features, check, make the model, use with the help of learning algorithm and check with the validation set, is the performance is good or not. Then again you will take another subset, then again you will make the model and check your performance is good or not, right? Any doubt till this point? Anyone?
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yes. Yeah.
Sir, so wrapper method is basically like hit and trial. Why would we use it in a real scenario?
So it is hit and trial, but there is a systematic way that I am coming, how to use it as a systematic way. Because many times when you say importance score, so definitely in order to generate the important score, you are depending on some method. Like suppose you are depending upon the linear regressor to generate the importance score. If your linear regressor itself is not performing good, it means the score whatever that linear regressor is giving, that is not a good score. So again, in case of filter method, you are dependent on other method as well. But in case of wrapper method, there is more chance because this is not dependent on any other method. You are definitely, it is a hit and trial kind of, but there is a systematic way. It is not completely hit and trial as well. So there is more chance because it is not dependent on any other method to select the importance score. So there is more chance that you will get a better subset as compared to filter method. Sometimes filter method also perform good. So both things should be there. Clear? I hope it's clear.
Yes, sir.
Any doubt till this point? Anyone? Okay. There are, so whenever you select the features, this is the criteria what we are looking for. The features are uncorrelated. If they are correlated features, highly correlated features means only one feature is contributing, second feature is not contributing enough. So the feature should be uncorrelated while we search the feature. Now there are two techniques. One technique is forward selection algorithm. You can say that is T1, and then another is the backward selection method. That is the technique 2, right? So in both the cases, what we are doing, So let's go one by one. But in both the cases, our target to select those features which are uncorrelated. That is the motive behind both the techniques, right? So in case of forward selection, it is very straightforward or very simple. You start with an empty feature set, right? There is no feature in your initial set, right? Then what you will do after the empty set, you will try one feature. So suppose you have 10 features, you will try 1 2 3 till 10 features. Now you selected one feature out of that 10 features. Now what you will do, again you will try with the remaining features, right? Then estimate the classification or regression error, which one, by adding that feature. So you selected, like you found, okay, feature X is the best feature in case of one feature. Then you add second feature over there and you check the accuracy. Then you add another feature and you check the accuracy. Then you add another feature and check the accuracy. So in that way you are adding up one by one features which are giving the performance boost, right? If they are not improving the performance, we will not add that feature, right? So in that way we are moving forward. We are adding, so we start with the empty set, we are adding one feature at a time and we are moving ahead, right? Now so this is definitely, it's a lengthy process, but that is the way to solve this feature selection problem. That is one way, that is the forward selection. Getting so there is another method, that is the backward selection. In case of backward selection, it is comparatively simple. What we are doing, we start with the full feature set and then we are removing one feature at a time, right? So we remove one feature at a time. So then we'll see the performance. Is there any drop in the accuracy or error is increasing? Then we will not drop that feature. Then we will check other features and we will drop one by one. Once once we reach a state where dropping any feature will decrease the performance, then you will stop at that moment. So now we have two methods. One method is forward selection and second method is backward selection. So if someone say analyze both the things, which one is better, or both are almost same? What do you think? It's analyze, so you can analyze, like you just create some feature space and then see if you add one feature at a time, then look into the other features, then add second feature, third feature and so on. What will be the complexity? And if you can say you have all features at a time and you are starting removing them, which one is better, or both are almost similar? What do you think? Yes, what your intuition is saying, which one is better?
Backward selection.
Backward selection. Okay, anyone else? What do you think, which one is better? So in case of backward selection, there is a possibility, like suppose you have 100 features, you start removing 1 2 3 4 5 and so on. After might be after 10 features, 10 once you remove 10 features, your accuracy is, then after removing 11 feature, either of them that is degrading the performance. So means you have to do 10 iterations, right? But in case of forward selection, what we have to do, we have to start from one feature, then second feature, then third feature and so on. Then you have to do 90 iteration, right? So if it is like 50% features are useless, 50% features are useful, then might be both are same. Even if it is, there is a case like only 10% features are useful, 90% are not useful, then forward will giving faster performance, right? So this is up to the data, this is based on the data as well, which one will give the better performance. Getting any doubt till this moment?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
तो जब हम इटरेशन करेंगे, हर एक फीचर में जाके उसको ऐड करेंगे एंड देन फिर देखेंगे कि वो काम कर रहा है कि नहीं, उसके बाद उसको रिमूव या फिर ऐड करेंगे, तो सर इटरेशन तो हम
उसके
वो
बाद
सारे
रिमूव नहीं
फीचर्स को
करेंगे,
देखेंगे।
जो फीचर्स उसमें परफॉर्मेंस इंप्रूवमेंट दे रहा है वो वहाँ फिक्स हो गया, उसके बाद हम नेक्स्ट की बारी करेंगे।
तो सर नंबर ऑफ इटरेशंस तो सेम ही रहे ना दोनों केसेस में।
Like suppose you have a data set. In that data set you have just a practical example. Theoretically yes, both are same. Theoretically if you look into the theoretical time complexity, yes definitely both will give the same time complexity, but practically suppose you have 100 features and out of 100 only 5 features are not useful features, 95 are the useful features, right? So in case of you can say forward process, you have to start from 1 and go up to 95 to select all 95 features. But in case of backward process, you remove 1 2 3 4 5. As you remove 6 features, your performance is degrading, right? So then you will not remove. But if it is a reverse case, like only 5 are important, 95 are not important, then forward will do better. So it is depend upon the problem itself, which algorithm will give you better performance. So that's why before applying any algorithm, you have to analyze the data by visually, like what can be the best method to solve this problem. Any doubt, guys? Anyone? Okay, can we move forward? Uh-oh. So there is another way that is known as recursive feature elimination, and I think this you've seen in the lab as well, RFE, right? So this recursive feature elimination, what it is saying, you use linear classifier, simple linear classifier, and find the weight of each feature. So definitely suppose you have a feature x1, x2, x3, x4, right? And using the you can say linear classifier, you will find the weights w1, w2, w3, w4. Now what you will do, you will simply whatever the smallest w, you will remove that feature. For example, we have smallest w, w3 is the smallest one. So then what you will do, you will remove this feature and again retrain your linear model based on x1, x2 and x4. So we'll retrain, right? So then again whatever you will get another value like w1, w2, w4, right? Again you will find out which has the minimum w, you will remove it and again retrain. Till which point you will do, until you are not reaching with the stopping criteria. And what can be the stopping criteria? Can be your accuracy. So if your accuracy is improving, then you continue with the process. But if your accuracy is degrading, then you will stop, right? So that is known as recursive feature elimination that you have seen in the lab. So I think in the first lab you have seen RFE in the more fun part, right? So this is the RFE. What exactly it is doing? It is taking the feature space and it is giving the weights, applying the simple linear classifier, or if it is a linear regression problem, so regression problems it will apply simple linear regression and then look into the weights. Now this weights actually is nothing, they are giving feature importance, right? We already know weights are looking for importance of features, right? So from the first method, like whenever we talk about our first H of hypothesis, H of WH, so we have discussed like these weights is nothing, they are giving importance to the feature. So here we are using this importance value to remove the features which have the smallest w. Now in case of saying smallest w, we are talking about the mod value, the magnitude, right? So if it is a minus 10 or if it is a plus 10, both are have equal importance, right? So both have, you can say, equal importance. Right? It doesn't mean like you are looking for the minus sign or plus sign. We are looking for the magnitude value. Right? So suppose you are saying your W1, let's say W1 equal to minus 9, W2 equal to 1, W3 equal to 5, and W4 equal to 0.13. So can you give a importance factor, or you can say um, the number, like which is the maximum important, which is the minimum important. So out of W1, W2, W3, W4, which is the highest important feature or most important feature out of this?
W1.
W1, right? And which is the least important feature? W4, because this has least magnitude, right? So in that way, you will remove the X4 column and then again retrain the model. And that will recursively go on and on until your accuracy drop will not start. Or till you are maintaining the same accuracy, you will do recursive process. So here, this is also comes into the picture sometimes. Suppose you have a feature, so this is more practical thing, like theoretically I cannot say, but practically suppose you have a feature x1 x2 till x100 feature, right? Now if you are able to remove, so suppose you are able to remove 10 features and your performance is degraded by 0.01%, it's a degradation, right? And if you remove only one feature, your performance is not degraded, right? Or you can say even it is 0.01. So now here a question comes into the picture, can we maintain some kind of trade-off? Because if you remove 10 features, if you remove these 10 features, then what happens means your computation complexity will reduce down, right? So here we want to maintain a kind of trade-off. Is really, can we remove those 10 features to, and we can compromise with the accuracy of 0.01%, right? So that also comes into the picture, how much we can remove, right? So it depends upon the application as well. Suppose you are making a toy kind of a toy game with the help of this machine learning model, right? And that toy, that particular app will be loaded on the mobile phone, right? So in that case, you look into the computational complexity as well, how fast it will work. Even your performance is degraded by 0.01%, but if your computational complexity is reduced by 10%, then you can compromise with that accuracy, right? But again, in another application, for example, you can say in the medical domain, maybe this 0.01 is also a big factor, so we'll not remove those features. So it depends upon the application. So sometimes he comes into the picture like trade-off. You want to maintain some kind of trade-off. Any doubt till this point? Anyone? Guys, any doubt till this point? No, yes.
No, sir.
Cool. So now we have another thing that is called as feature extraction, right? So let me give you a brief of feature extraction because we have limited time and this topic is good enough. So in case of feature extraction, suppose you have feature x1, x2, x3, dash, 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 xn as we discussed, right? So what you will do, this is one feature space which has n dimensional, right? I want to convert this feature space into another feature space that is z1, z2, dash, 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 you can say zm, and this is m dimensional feature space where this z is the function of these original x values. So means you can regenerate from this x those z values. So here definitely if you are doing the feature reduction, then n strictly greater than m, means you are reducing the feature space. Here you are not selecting the features, you are transforming the feature into different space. That is known as the feature extraction process, right? So in short, you can say you are projecting of higher dimensional feature to lower dimensional. Right. So let me so whenever you will project these things, few things you have to remember, or you have to take care. First, these should be uncorrelated. So they should not be highly correlated, and you cannot reduce further. So sometimes this is like sometimes it is not true as well, but we are trying to do this. Second important part is high variance. So when we say high variance, means you are easily discriminate the features. If they have low variance, then discrimination will be quite difficult. But if you have high variance, then discrimination between the features or differentiating between the features is become much easier, right? So let's look into in the you can say with the help of some diagrams how exactly it is look like, right? So suppose we have the features something like so we have some features like this, right? Now what I have created a projection line like this, and now whatever the value in this projection line, that will become your, you can say, new feature space. So how you will find out the projection line? So this will be projected here, this will projected here, this will projected here, projected here, projected here, projected here, projected here. So now these points will become your new feature space for this bigger feature space. So now if you look into this bigger feature space, they are in 2-dimensional. Initially they are in 2-dimensional. Now we converted into 1-dimensional. Means you have 2-dimensional feature space. As they projected in one single line, that will become 1-dimensional, right? So just look into this. So you can say there are a lot of information loss. Yes, definitely there are some information loss. But before jumping into that, can you give some example what in our real life, in day-to-day life, we are doing this projection? Every day, or you can say every minute, we are doing this kind of projection. Some example. Yes, some example where we are doing this kind of projection. कोई तो याद करो कहाँ प्रोजेक्शन होता है इस टाइप का. सब लोग घर पे तो बैठे ही होंगे, आई होप. कोई एग्जांपल क्या प्रोजेक्शन करते हैं या प्रोजेक्शन होते हुए हम देखते हैं?
So number
So scale
detection.
यस यस.
तो नंबर डिटेक्शन में हम लोग 2D एरेज को 1D में फ्लैटन करते हैं, फिर एनालाइज करते हैं.
मैथ्स नहीं यार, रेगुलर डे टू डे लाइफ, मतलब जो एक किसी भी लेमैन आदमी को बताओ वो समझ में आना चाहिए, जो रोज देखते हैं हम लोग, सुबह से शाम तक शायद हम हजारों बार देखते होंगे.
shadow.
Yes, shadow. Actually, shadow is nothing. It is our own projection, right? And that is converting 3D to 2D. Similarly, you are watching movie. You are looking into the photographs. What is this photographs exactly? This is the projection of 3D to 2D. That is the projection, right? You are projecting your information, that 3D information, into two-dimensional information, and still you are able to get plenty of information from that 2D projection. So same way this projection is working. Now here one thing is saying, we said it should be high variance, right? So let's say here we have one choice. Second choice, let me plot it and then we'll close this session. So suppose we have second choice, and in this choice we have similar AR. In this choice we have, so I'm trying to map same. Okay, now in this one what we have done, instead of projecting in previous way, we are projecting in a different way. Let's say I am projecting in this way, right? So once you look into the projection, what you will get, you will get the projection here. Right? So now you can say this is your projection 1, projection 1, and this is your projection 2. Which one have high variance, projection 1 or projection 2? I hope you understand variance, the variation between the points. You can say the discrimination, how quickly you can discriminate. You can say, or you can say distance between the points. That can also a rough idea of variation, you can say. So which one have more variation, P1 or P2? Difficult question. Yes, which one has more variation? What do you think?
Sir, P2.
P2 has more variation, because if you look into these points, so this is the point, you can say these are really close, right? Very close points, right? But in case of P2, these are comparatively far from each other. So means P2 has more variation than P1. So you can say for our analysis, P2 is better projection line, or you can say P2 is better projected line than P1, right? Okay, so that's it for today. We will discuss this thing more detail into the next lecture. So any doubt, anyone till this point?